Metal extrusion is a reduction that process that ends up taking the material that is a certain size and then reducing it down to a smaller size. If we start with a round shape that's a cylinder, we can then reduce it to a smaller shape that is also a different shape than the original shape that we started with. In other words, we can produce something that's going to have a completely different output than the input that we had.
I think of the value in kind of two streams. The first is the extrusion process itself allows the capability to provide a seamless, homogeneous part, whether that's a tube or a shaped hollow. The alternative would be a customer having to weld parts together. It can be more time-consuming, more costly to do that than just being able to take material and extrude it out. The second value stream that I see is that the vast knowledge that we have here from over 40 years of extruding different metals, different shapes. We have a starting point that's not zero.
So our team is very experienced, and I, for one, am very fortunate for it because my time with the company has been only three plus years. So the team that we have here, some of the veterans have been here for well over 30 years, some 40 years. We can actually go back and find out things that worked in the past, that now we know that this is something we could try again. And we can also look at the things that didn't work in the past and why they didn't, and then draw from that knowledge and then find a solution for things that we could do in the future.
So when a customer comes to us and they say, we're working on a new alloy, we're going to, get some material made, we can go back through our knowledge base and say, hey, we run similar material. We kind of know what temperatures and speeds to run at. So it allows us to kind of shorten that development time, which saves the customer money.
Reaper is the name of our press. It actually has a great history behind it. It was originally made in 1942. Original use was actually to make this product right here. And if you take a look, it's a piece of metal that was extruded on our press. And this was made for the war effort, and this was for propeller blades that we used on bombers. So from this was a centerpiece for the propeller blade that was 10 foot in diameter that was created on our press. The Reaper press ended up getting commissioned again in the 50s. And when that ended up happening, we ended up opening all kinds of possibilities that we could do on it. And over time and over many decades, we have actually expanded on those possibilities as well.
Some of my customers, I have to say, actually have been around for generations and go back to the late 70s, mid 70s when we first installed the press. So actually a lot of times I get new information from them and their knowledge base of where the press came from and how it was utilized. Everybody finds it interesting. Everybody loves the stories.
It's quite amazing to me to look at something that was made back in the 40s. If we think about the fact that this is a massive piece of equipment, weighing in many, many tons, and it was made in a fashion that it was poured actually into a mold that was cut into the ground. And they managed to do it with precision that's within 0.005 of an inch. That is incredible to me, that they were capable of doing something like that. When we do that today, that's something that we certainly can achieve, but we're achieving it with modern technology, computerized assistants, all these things that were not available to them. So the piece of equipment that, number one, can survive that longevity and then be that well made is simply incredible.
A lot of the challenges that come to us, customers, they've got a material that they've got to make into an end part. Again, it kind of goes back to our experience and working out a solution for the customer to get to that end final product.
So when it comes to the development of new alloys, there is always something that's out there in the forefront that we're trying to achieve for the end user that is going to challenge us. Good example would be if we look at the softer materials, aluminums and coppers. They tend to have an easier time flowing when it comes to the material displacement that happens as material goes from the cylinder of the press through the tooling. When that occurs, we have to consider how well is it going to flow and at what rate from the dead zone that it sits in prior to making it through the smaller cavity of the tooling. When it comes to the geometry entry that we need for the harder materials, those would be examples of high nickel alloys, refractory materials like molybdenum, tungsten, niobium. Those materials actually need additional help to flow from the zone, and that's where we have to be very considerate of how we develop our process and what we're going to use. And at times with new alloys, we do get challenged that we do have to consider new lubrication. We have to consider different geometry entries. We have to consider different heating methods.
Alex, I would have to say, first and foremost, and most importantly, I see him, he is good people. So I think everybody that meets and has interaction with him would say the same. I got to tell you, recent trips out to customers, a lot of kudos on the extrusion team, quality, operations, our flexibility to meet the customer needs. I was out on the floor yesterday with our operations manager and one of our customers, and JR operations manager was talking about the press crew specifically, and about how all those guys are cross-trained. They can do each other's jobs. All of them can be an operator. And so they're in step with one another. They work in unison. They can see the efficiencies from our crew in how they work.
Get a hold of us. Talk to us about your needs. Tell us what you're trying to do with your end product. And let's see if we can offer you a solution that's going to improve your material properties, your material behavior in the environment that it's going to be in, or even possibly the life cycle that your material is currently experiencing. So all those things are something that can be something that we can offer if they get a hold of us and tell us exactly what they're working with and how they're looking at it.